Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us a filmmaker, and he has a series of short films that's called The Creepy Cuts. I have with us the director, Timothy Troy. Timothy, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. So tell everyone about Creepy Cuts.
So Creepy Cuts is a series of micro shorts that I've been doing the last couple of years. You can find them on my channel. It's Crazy Little Monster on YouTube. They are all between, the longest one is 3 minutes. The shortest one is 45 seconds. And they are all micro shorts in the horror genre. The general idea is to take a horror trope, kind of spin it on its head a little bit, find a way to give the audience a thrill or a scream or a laugh or maybe all three in a really short amount of time. For me, it's a way to get a lot more content out, to make more movies faster. They're easy to do. I knock them out in a day, sometimes more than one in a day, and they're just fun to do.
Now, how long does it take you to come up with a story for each mini short?
It depends. Oftentimes, it's very, very quick. You know, I've written some of them in 5 minutes. One of my favorites was basically just me and my buddy who has written some of them and edits all of them. We were just kind of sitting around knocking ideas back and forth and basically wrote it on the spot. Like, you know, and a lot of it is my theory of horror. A lot of time is how do you make things worse all the time, right? Like it's just a series of making things worse and worse and worse. And that was kind of what the exercise for this one. It's called Hobby Night. It's the most recent one up on the channel because the film that I have been touring festivals with the last year called Candor has not come out yet. Hobby Night is basically just a series of exercises of, okay, take a serial killer. How do you make it worse? How do you make it worse? How do you make it worse? And go through that in 2 minutes. It's one of my favorite films to screen with an audience because it brings the audience to this place that you can feel the reaction in the room. I've got a buddy who calls it the audience deadener because it just brings everybody back so much.
Now, is that a challenge to do to get a reaction of an audience in such a short time span?
I think it is. I really enjoy doing it, and I really enjoy the challenge of making a short film as short as I can. Some of it was a reaction to being on the festival circuit and seeing films that I always thought were too long. And so I just went completely in the opposite direction. I said, okay, how short can I make these? And yeah, the idea of being able to take an audience and just hit them in the gut and then bring them even further and further and further down in, I think Hobby Night's 2.5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it really does. It makes your heart proud as a horror filmmaker, right? You know, I think I've got one of the best reviews that I ever heard of it once. A friend of mine came up and said that this movie is amazing and I hate it because she was not a horror fan at all. Right? Like she's like, I hate that this exists in the world, but it's really, really good, right? So I had to take some pride in that. At the same time, you always feel a little guilty. Like, am I traumatizing people for life? I hope not. I hope they get over the initial shock of what they see and can respect the filmmaking behind it.
Now, you've worked on some pretty big budget movies as well, behind the scenes with cast and crew. And now, one thing you said, you know, movies are too fucking long now. I mean, to me, they are. And, you know, once you start getting over that 2-hour time span, I don't know if it's because I'm getting old or it's because my attention span is off. But, like, I lose attention after 2 hours now.
I would agree. I think, especially in the horror realm, in general, but especially in horror, much over 90 minutes, and you really, really have to earn it. I think in horror, that's because you are putting your audience into this world of tension, and you can only, put a body like physically through that emotional ringer for so long before it just becomes deadening and dull to them, and you start losing your effectiveness. there's also there's not a whole lot of films I've seen, especially lately, that really earn the longer running times. There's classics out there that any of us could name that really do make it worth watching a 3-hour movie. The Godfather is one of my favorite movies ever. It's 3 hours long. I could watch it, put it back in, and watch it right over again. But it's so complex and so rich in the characters. I don't know that they're getting enough complexity in films to warrant that anymore.
Because the last horror movie that I watched that I enjoyed, but I was like, this is too fucking long. That was Terrifier 2. And I was like, this is a little bit over. It was like 2.5 hours. And I saw it in the theaters. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of overkill. There's too much filler in here. I'm like, what is... Actually, no. Halloween Kills was one of those movies that it was just too much. It was too long. It just dragged. And like you said, horror movies are supposed to come in, hit you in the gut, and have you fucking walking out shocked and shaken. Not have you, falling asleep.
Yeah. I haven't seen Halloween Kills, and I think I'm on record in a few places saying I'm not the biggest fan of Terrifier. Either of the films, I've watched them both. They don't do anything for me, right? Like I want to go to see a movie for the characters, for the story that they are going through. And I don't think the characters in Terrifier really do much of anything for the story. No. So it's not my cup of tea. I can understand why there are some people that really just want the shock and the thrill and get something out of that, and that's great for them. I'm happy that they enjoy it. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, but that's been my biggest critique of, especially the first Terrifier. There was no character development. I mean, you didn't know nothing about the characters. You didn't feel enough about the characters, and it was just like I couldn't finish the first one because it was just kill after kill after kill. And you didn't even know who the fuck. You didn't feel anything. And I feel like a good horror movie, you got to feel something for the characters or in it.
Well, you want to be affected when they die, right? I mean,
yeah.
The idea behind movies, art in general, is to make the audience feel something, right? Like to communicate something that's in your head out to their head. And I don't know what's being communicated in that series. Like maybe it's on me, right? Maybe I just don't understand what they're going for with it. I don't understand either. But it doesn't grab me.
Yeah. And also too, like one of the good things about a good horror movie too, you kind of I don't want to say relate to the villain, but there's a background story. You kind of like, okay, I can kind of see why he's doing it. It might be for a fucked up reason, but I see why. Those movies, there's no story behind the killer. It's just a clown that's running around killing people. And I went to see the second one because people told me it was so good. Hey, yeah, it was leaps and bounds better than the first one, which is not a whole lot to say. But I knew less from finishing watching that movie than I did the first one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you think about some of the best horror villains or best villains in general. They're always people that you can relate to, people that you can understand. You don't necessarily need to agree with them, but you can understand what they're doing, like you said, and even a character like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, right? Michael, depending on what mythology you get into, he's offended by his sister's, his sister abandoning him or whatever, was properly, like she's not watching him when she's supposed to be because she's off with her boyfriend. Or Jason Voorhees is a more clear example, right? He's bullied. And his mother is angry at him for being bullied. She's angry at the counselors for ignoring him. It's that kind of stuff. Like you can at least pin it to something.
Yes.
You don't necessarily think that he's doing the right thing. You wouldn't do it yourself, but you can understand it.
Yes, and that's something that's like this is not even a horror movie, but the movie Heat. I love the movie Heat because Heat. In part of the movie, I was cheering for the villain, De Niro. Like I was equally cheering for Pacino and De Niro equally, and I didn't want to see either one of them lose.
Right. I had a director I've worked with before who said the best stories are always when everybody's right.
Yep.
You know, and he's got some of that, right? Like everybody in the room is right. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. You understand their point of view, and everybody's right. And that's where the best conflict comes in because the audience can't really find a place to come down one way or another.
I 100% agree. Now, so what are your views right now when it comes to Hollywood and horror movies? Do you think they are killing the industry, or do you think there are some creative ideas coming out?
I don't know. I think Hollywood's doing pretty well lately. I mean, I think we've had a really good year for horror already. I went and saw a couple of movies that I really enjoyed, and even the ones I didn't, I think, are doing well. And there's people out there that are enjoying them. I checked out Late Night with the Devil when that came out a few weeks ago, and I loved it.
I hear that's great. I hear that's great.
It's really good. And again, it's characters, right? It's characters that you like. It's characters that you understand. It's characters that you care for and don't want to see bad things happen to. But it's horror movies, so bad things always happen to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like I remember, well, I think it was last year before, but like Barbarian came out, X came out. There was even Smile. I even enjoyed Smile, believe it or not. But like, it seems like the horror genre right now, big budget, they are steering away from reboots. Which I mean, there's a couple popping up, but they're coming out with more original ideas, and I'm glad to see that. But I know when it comes to the horror industry, at some point the horror industry does this. It goes up and down. I know that the down is coming soon.
You're worried about the crash.
Yes,
Maybe.
I know it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
I mean, we're in kind of a weird transitional phase right now, though, too, right? Like we've had all the elevated horror that we went through for 5 or 6 years. You know, the Jordan Peele and Ari Aster and all those. And some of those I liked, some of those I didn't. But you could see it all going through the trend. I think we're getting a reaction to that now. You're getting stuff more like Immaculate or Abigail or Malignant and movies like that are more crowd pleasing, so to speak. Like they're just more aimed towards being fun and more aimed towards a different segment to the horror crowd. You know, nobody's looking at Malignant and talking about it being an Oscar movie the way you would with Hereditary or something, but it's got a good stranglehold on the horror crowd still because it delivers something that they like. So I think it's going to go in waves, and you know, maybe we just might be in a spot now where we're in more of a popular horror phase.
Well, one thing I'm afraid of though is the what's the word I'm looking for? The domain, like the property domain, like more and more. I'm seeing them pop up. You know, you saw it first with the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh, okay.
And the second one came out, and I see that there's a Mickey Mouse one coming out.
Yeah, which they better be careful because Steamboat Willie's public domain, but Mickey Mouse isn't, and Mickey Mouse is still free. So you can't. I don't know how they're getting away with it. You know, I hope they have lawyers already on their side. Like, no, you can do this. You can do this. You can be okay. Because I wouldn't be taking that risk. I mean, it's just.
I just hope that this is not because I mean I just saw recently that Peter Pan is having one, like, and I hope that this is not the trend that's hard is starting to come through.
That came out?
I'm sorry?
Did you see the one for the Little Mermaid? The Little Mermaid.
No, I did not.
There's a Little Mermaid horror movie, but you know what? The trailer actually doesn't look bad. So you know, I think in the hands of the right person, I think any of those stories could be good. I mean, you look back to some of Grimm's fairy tales, right? They are dark as hell. There's torture and there's murders and there's all kinds of crazy, scary stuff in them. You could do horror out of a lot of those old fairy tales in the right hands. You know, I don't know that Winnie the Pooh is ever going to feel like it should be a horror movie. But,
yeah.
You know, I mean, that's also a trend in horror that I don't know is ever going to go away. Like, there's always going to be the people that want to take something cute and make it evil, or you know, to step on toes or to push boundaries just to do it. You know, I think anything. Comedy has that same thread. And horror has the same thread of kind of like the edgelord crowd that just wants to be just shock people to do it. And okay, again, it's not something that really strikes me most of the time. I don't really care for it, but there are people out there that respond to it, and there's nothing wrong with people making that movie. You make what you want, and you see how the market takes it.
Yeah, and like the Winnie Pooh, like the first one did pretty big and good in the box office. I actually saw it, and I actually saw it in theaters because I try to support any horror filmmakers. I was not a fan of that at all, and I just thought I thought it was a cash grab. I mean, I thought it was 100% a cash grab. It just wasn't. I don't. In my mind, I was picturing something else. I was picturing, like, if you're going to do Winnie the Pooh, have some Winnie the Pooh aura to it. You know what I mean? Have some Winnie the Pooh kills. Have some, and it was just three rednecks with with Winnie the Pooh mask on, and I was like, okay, it wasn't what I expected. I hear that the second one is Tigger, and it's a little more. It's better than the first one, but I mean, I'm just not going to spend the money to see it now. So if it comes on streaming or something, I might watch it. But the first one was a Phantom event, so it was more expensive than a normal movie ticket. And I just remember seeing it, and 15 minutes, I'm like, this is not what. In the hands of the right filmmaker, this could have been something great.
Sure.
And I just felt like they didn't care. They just made it into a cash grab. Put some Winnie the Pooh mask on some, Hills Have Eyes like characters, and it's a Winnie the Pooh movie.
I think there's always going to be some of that too, right? I mean, and horror probably is worse for that side of things than most of the other businesses, or most of the other genres in film, rather, because it's a business still, and the money in to make a horror movie is much lower than it is for most other things, because in a horror film, as pretty much everybody knows, right, the draw isn't the actors necessarily, it's the concept, or it's the blood, or it's whatever else. So you can get away with cheaper production values, cheaper actors, cheaper everything, and you can make a horror movie fast and easy. Just cover it in blood. So I think the business is always going to encourage some degree of that cash grabby side of things. And if it works for people, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Now, like I said, no, I used to love that type of shit, but now, now that I'm older and I guess my palate is getting more mature or something, I need more of a story. I need character development. I have to care about the characters, and there are some horror movies out there, like I said it, like Barbarian and even like X. And I hear Abigail is pretty good. I haven't seen Abigail. I want to see that.
I put Abigail. I didn't care for it too much, but I have my own personal best.
Okay. Well, I was on the plan on seeing it this weekend. Okay, but
yeah, I thought it was okay, and I can see why people do like it, but again, not for me. I feel like I'm talking like I keep hitting on movies that I don't like, but I do actually enjoy horror movies. Which is why I make them. But
so when did you decide? Because so you worked on some big budget movies. You worked on I saw Jupiter Ascending.
Mm-hmm.
You worked on, it was a whole list, but you worked on some big budget movies. When did you decide? You know what? I want to start making my own movies.
Well, I started making movies in film school, which it's what everybody does, right? I went through film school directing films. But at the same time, I wanted to get on sets as often as I could, because I thought that making the movies I made would be better if I had a technical understanding of how the crew works. So I wanted to be on set as much as I could. And in doing that, I sort of fell into doing grip and lighting, and specifically pushing a dolly, which is what I do most of the time now for a living. I'm a union dolly grip, mostly working in shows on Chicago. I'm on one of the Dick Wolf shows in Chicago, so that's my day job. And I try and take all that knowledge and put it into the filmmaking that I do for myself. I did that for a few years, and it had been a little while since I'd made a movie, and I decided that I really wanted to get back into making my own stuff. And so I came up with this short idea, right? Again, super short movie about a monster that could mimic sounds. And so I thought, well, what if it was mimicking a doorbell? And basically, I'm playing, Ding Dong Ditch with the main character of the film, and it turned into Ding Dong, which is the movie that I've had the most success with from anything that I've put up on my channel. It's got like 50,000 views, which is not much in the world of YouTube, I admit, but it's
really,
sometimes I think about that and it's like 50,000 people watch this movie. Like that's insane. Like that's Soldier Field is full of people who watch this movie.
Fucking huge.
It's crazy, and it's really cool. It's really, really gratifying to see that, and that screened at a festival that a friend of mine was putting on. It was a charity thing, and so there weren't a lot of. It wasn't like specifically horror. It was a mishmash of all kinds of genres. And I've told people this before, but that film, that screening was the drug that I think I'm chasing for the rest of my life now, because there's two moments in Ding Dong that really kind of bring some scares. There's one where the monster goes behind people, behind the main character, and I got this little Twitter out of the audience. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I got him now. And then when you finally see the creature, and the thing's only 4 minutes long, so it's tension that builds up for 4 minutes, and then you finally deliver it at the end. I got this gasp out of a 400-person crowd. That was all I needed. My brain just fired, and it was like a shot of some drug, like I said, that I don't think I will ever be able to stop chasing. Because that feeling of being able to control an entire audience's emotions at once is like, oh, this is so cool. It's just so neat to think that something I did is connecting with this many people that deeply. Yeah.
What's the best response you've seen from an individual in the audience? That the one that sticks out in your mind the most?
The monster in Ding Dong doesn't have any eyes because it mimics sound, so it hunts by sound. And I was at a screening once, and there was somebody across from me that, or a couple of seats down rather, that was just like, "Where are its eyes? Where are its eyes?" And that was like a genre crowd, so I knew I had gotten something out of that.
Nice.
Hobby Night is another one that's gotten some really, really good reactions. The last screening I did of it was a couple weeks ago, and somebody was just like, oh. You hear those like those vocal reactions that are just precious, because you've impacted somebody, which is why we make movies, right? Like you want to connect with another person that way.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, so Tim, I'm going to ask you 3 random horror questions.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. The first one. So listen, we talk about reboots and unoriginal idea, but what is one horror movie that has not been rebooted that you were like, you know what, I wouldn't mind seeing that?
Ooh. I'm always terrible at these kind of things, but it would probably be something by H.P. Lovecraft, right? Like, I think there's been a couple of adaptations. I think the Dunwich Horror got it adapted, and it, if I remember right, it was done in the 60s, and it really hasn't ever clicked. Like, it was barely connected to the story at all. I would love to see that. I'm a big Lovecraft fan. So I would go for maybe something like that. Or I had an idea for a modern retelling of Dracula once that I think would work pretty well. People have done Dracula over and over and over, but I had a kind of a neat way into it that I thought about. That might be fun, but I'll go with that. Something from H.P. Lovecraft, maybe Dunwich Horror.
Okay. The next question: that door behind you.
Yeah.
What? Okay. What horror movie character? What horror movie villain would be like the last one that you'd be like, you know what? Fuck no, I wouldn't want it to be him or her to come through that fucking door.
The Xenomorph. Xenomorph
Like
from Aliens. Yeah, there's no getting around that thing. And it's, that is just the perfect monster, right? Like
it is.
it's body horror in there. It's this weird design that just feels alien, right? And I think we've gotten used to seeing it from, what are they at, 6 or 7 movies that have featured the thing now, plus all the comics and everywhere else. But it's still just this strange thing but it's just close enough to something that feels like biologically possible that it should freak you out, right? Like it feels plausible even though it's so strange. And that's it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because I mean, it spits ass and the shit. Like, where are you going to go in that room if a fucking Xenomorph comes
Yeah, nowhere. I'm done. I'll be cocooned on the wall.
Yep. All right. Last question. What's a horror movie that you hear people say, a lot of people say, I love? You might even look on Rotten Tomatoes and it has a high review that you're like, I don't fucking see it. I really don't fucking see it. I don't know. Am I weird that I don't enjoy this movie?
I'm going to lose your entire audience here. I have a friend who reviews movies, and she has almost written me off because of this. But
okay.
I'm going to say Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The original?
The original.
Really?
I understand why people like, and I respect it in its place as, horror royalty, right? And I get it, and I can even go so far as, when we go back to talking about characters and villains that you empathize with, like, my heart goes out to Leatherface, right? Like, I understand he's been abused and screwed up his entire life. I get it. But as a film, like, to sit down and watch, it's a slog for me, right? It's just, especially once Sally, right, the main character, especially once Sally gets kidnapped and she's at the dining room table. Like, even the first time I saw it, that dining room table scene, I was just like, they're still yelling? Okay, they're still yelling. All right, oh, they're still yelling. Okay, great. Like, there's parts of that film that are really, really good and that I love, and I'm sure I'll steal from at some point. There's shots in there that are really, really well done. And the impact that it had on horror can't be explained enough. But it's just not a movie that I remember like, okay, I really want to watch this. Like, there's been times that it'll pop up on Shudder's live stream, and I'll watch a few minutes of it and like, okay, yeah, it's good. But I'm never pushed to watch the whole thing.
See, I wish I could experience that movie in 1974 when there was the big craze and, it was so scary. Because I saw the movie when I was 5 years old, and I wasn't scared of it. So, like, I remember I said, like, that was the first horror movie I ever watched and that was in 1986, and I watched that movie, and I enjoyed it, but I was like, I didn't see. People say, it's one of the most terrifying movies ever made. I never now the remake, that fucking remake, the one with Jessica Biel in it, Michael Bay, that movie is fucking disturbing.
Okay.
That movie, I feel like, is the modern day. Now, every other Texas Part 2, I actually enjoy Part 2. But every other Texas Chainsaw Massacre in between there is fucking horrible. And I wish they would stop making Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, to be honest.
Well, you got to give the last one credit. There was at least a Chainsaw Massacre in Texas, which the one on the bus, right? I think that's the first time that actually happened in any of the Texas Chainsaw movies, as far as I'm aware. Like, at least of any of the ones I saw, that's the first time you actually had a true massacre with a chainsaw in any movies. True.
It did have that, but that movie had some of the worst fucking characters I've ever seen. Unlikable characters. It was, but that kill scene on that bus was amazing. I mean, it was yes. I mean, and like putting yourself in those fucking shoes too. Imagine if you were stuck in that fucking bus. Imagine if you were stuck in that bus. I mean, that's terrifying.
Yeah. And I think this is what's great about horror, though, right? Like, we're both talking about a movie that we both agree is more or less terrible, but
Yeah.
we're like, but except for this thing, that was really good. And you talk to any horror fan out there, and it's like, yeah, and that one scene really almost made the hour and a half that I watched it worth it. And I think that's so cool about horror. Like horror fans are they're just the best fans out there because they will watch a terrible movie, but they'll be like, yeah, but it was a really good idea, and I'm giving them credit for that. So great.
I agree because I watch a lot of horror movies. I mean, because I interview a lot of indie filmmakers.
Yeah.
And it's rare that I can watch a movie and I can't find something positive about it or something I do like about it. So I mean, I can think of somebody, I would never say their names, but I mean, in every horror movie, for the most part, there are some good factors. I mean, even when you say the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, like, I thought that whole fucking with them in the van scene and the hitchhiker, I thought that was the most terrifying. But even like when Leatherface came out and hit the guy with the hammer, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are some scenes in every movie for the most part, that like you were like, that was fucking good.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest trend, good or bad, that you're seeing in indie horror right now?
All right, so I'm gonna give you a good and bad. I'm gonna give you a good and bad. The good is there are some creative ideas coming out. There are some stories that I'm like, whoa. I'm gonna tell you one just off the top of my head. There's one that's called Bundy Manor. So streaming on TV, by the way. And Alex Watson, I believe that's his name. He was the filmmaker. And the movie is about it's about a haunted attraction that actually fucking tortures people and shit and like kills people and like it. And I don't recall seeing anything like that. But I'm saying they didn't kill people, but they torture them. I'm not gonna give it away. But it was something I was like, I've never seen this before. Like, whoa. And I mean, I've seen one called Darius recently, which is probably the most disturbing movie I've ever seen in my life. And that came out last year. But there's some great ideas coming out, but let's go back to the other one. The product is watered down. The product is completely watered down. There's no gatekeeper. There's no filters anymore. So like everything gets passed through.
Mm-hmm.
And like as someone from the audience going on to Shudder or going on to Netflix or going to Amazon, going on Tubi, and I want to sit down and I want to find a horror movie, I have to go through 25 before just clicking on them and like, oh, this is bad. Off. Oh, this is bad. I mean, and then by then, a whole fucking hour has gone by before I even found something I want to watch.
How long do you get into it?
10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
10 to 15 minutes. And it depends. I mean, unless I'm in the mood to watch a bad movie, sure. Every once in a while, I'm in the mood to watch a bad movie. But you go through that process, and I also think it has to do with streaming. Going back to the VHS days, you rented a movie, you were stuck with that movie, so you had no choice but to watch it. But now there's so many fucking options. You're clicking on and off. Nope, I don't like this. And then you just never watch a movie unless the only way you can find a good indie horror movie, a lot of times you just randomly stumble upon it or somebody refers it to you.
Right. Yeah, the word of mouth is the key, right?
It is 100% the key.
I hear you. I mean, movies, horror is just one example, but movies in general, it's just this fire hose that's coming out, and you're trying to get a drop, and you have a fire hose coming at you, and you just can't do it. There's just too much stuff, and the competition is so fierce, and even it makes even good movies hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
and it makes the good movies hard to get seen. I've seen so many good horror movies at festivals in the last couple of years, and I don't know how anybody's making money on them. I mean, I'm still chasing that thing too. I've got features that I'm trying to get off the ground and trying to pitch around, but it's a scary world out there to try and get a movie made and seen and everything.
It's scary. I mean, even like crowdfunding, like everybody is doing a crowdfunding or on a movie. Like, so like if you're someone who supports like I do, how do you know who to support for? Who do you support? Like, it's like there's not enough. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, I try and toss at least a little bit of money at any crowdfunding that somebody I know is running. But even that, it's like that's 5-6 of them a year, maybe more. It adds up.
It really does, and I do a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a whole network of people now that you're
yes, and I try to support. I try to support anybody who I interview. You know what I mean? I try to support there, but like it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's everybody is making an indie horror movie, and people ask me, "Hey, Travis, why don't you make one?" If you got good ideas, I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." Because I want to leave that to the true filmmakers. You know, I can go ahead and take my iPhone and make a damn movie or something, but I want to leave it to the true filmmakers, the true artists, the people who have the true vision. You know what I mean? I just felt like if I went out and made a movie right now, I would just be making a mockery of the genre. That's me.
I'll always tell anybody that is interested in doing it, they should try it. But if you're not committed to it, don't do it. It's way too hard. It's way too much work. It's way too much everything.
And I would be, and I know that I would be committed to. See, I could probably be a great executive producer or producer and bounce ideas and hey, do this and that. But to actually make a film, like I know I wouldn't take it serious.
Yeah, and directing is not, it's not just the story side of it. Like it's really running a ship, right? And
you're the captain.
In the indie world, you're also producing. You're also doing 1,000 other things. A lot of times you're like trying to figure out where lunch is coming from. In 1 second you're telling people how to go pick up lunch. You're going to pick up lunch yourself or whatever it is, and then the next second you're trying to coach an actor through a death scene or something. It's crazy. So directing is this weird amalgam of 1,000 jobs, and the stress of it is immense, even on indie stuff, because it's always just decisions after decisions after decisions. What I've learned on big shows all the way down to my little Creepy Cuts films, it's all basically the same. It's all judgment is what directing is. When you get hired as a director, they're paying you for your judgment. They're paying you to make the right decisions far more often than you make the wrong one. And if you make the wrong one in the wrong time, you might not get hired by that company ever again. That's just the way it rolls. But directing in general is just what decisions are you going to make over and over and over and over and over, because everybody on the crew has something that you have to come and make a choice about. It's is it this hat or is it that hat? Is it this shade of curtains or another shade of whatever it might be? It's just 1,000 tiny details that you have to have input on all of them, or you have to cede that authority to somebody that you trust, and then that's a choice in of itself, right? Are you trusting your production designer to make those decisions and to get them right? Hopefully you can do that. I've been really lucky, and the crews that I've had make really good decisions and understand the stories and are able to do those things without me, and they make the movies better, which is the situation you always want to be in, where your cast or your crew makes the movie better by the things that they do, and you don't have to be that micromanagey about things. It's a wonderful place to be, and it's a privilege to do that. But it's still a lot of work, no matter what you do.
It is. And it's not the work that I would want to invest, because, and once again, it would be something, I don't do anything that I'm not willing to put 200% in. I don't care what that be. This YouTube channel, work, whatever, relationships, whatever. I go 200% in everything I do. And if I'm not going to do it 200%, I just don't fucking do it. And I feel like doing that, I would not put my 200. I would not go 200%. I'd probably go 75%. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that point, I'm taking a view from an actual filmmaker who actually takes it serious. You know what I mean? When I say a view, a click on Tubi. And I just feel like that would be 1% for me, wrong for me to do. And I just wouldn't do it. No.
That's such a great philosophy. I mean, thank you for that. Like, thank you for knowing that about yourself. Like, I think that's such a mature attitude and viewpoint that I think a lot of people don't get. And don't get me wrong, some people have to make that movie to realize, yeah, I can't do this at that level, or I'm not as into this as I should have been, or whatever. You know, sometimes you have to jump into the pool to realize that you don't like the water.
Yeah. I mean, cause everybody can't be a filmmaker, right?
Right.
Everybody can't be a YouTuber. Everybody can't be a doctor. Everybody can't be a lawyer. But that's what makes us different. So, you know, everybody can't be good at everything. You know, we're all good in all different things. And I respect filmmakers. Because it's a fucking tough ass fucking thing. And especially a director like you, I mean, if anything bad fucking goes on wrong, the finger is pointed at you. And majority of the time, if everything goes well, you still don't get the praises. You know, the praises goes to your cast. It goes to your cinematographer. It doesn't go to you.
I mean, I think directors get plenty of glory. I wouldn't say that they don't. And especially in the festival world, which is, you know, where I'm mostly familiar with experiencing, you know, directing. Directors are kind of the face of the movie, because most of the time they're the ones that show up at the screenings. They're the ones that get the questions. They're the ones that get tied to the movie the most. So I think I've basked in plenty of nice screenings where people said really nice things about movies, and it makes me feel great. So I can't complain about any of that. But you're right. You know, if something's wrong, then the director probably did that. And the truth of the matter is, they're right. Right? If something's wrong with the movie, it's probably the director in some way or another that messed something up there. You know, whether it's casting the wrong person, or it's making the wrong decision about where the story goes, or not. Any of the 1,000 decisions. You're not putting the camera in the right place, right? Like if the movie's not visually interesting, that's not really on the DP. It's the director should be figuring out why it's not interesting enough, or having the judgment to understand, no, this isn't dynamic enough as a visual to catch an audience.
Yep. I mean, David Gordon Green he just got crucified. I mean, for the Exorcist movie, to the point that he just fucking dropped out. I don't think he dropped out. I think they made him resign. But like, and I listened to the movie was not a good movie, but was it the worst movie I saw? No. Like, but the audience just did not like it. It didn't bring the Nerf box office money in for who was it? New Line Cinema? Was it Dimensions?
Yeah, I mean, it's Blumhouse in the end, right?
Blumhouse, yeah. But it just didn't bring in another money, so like they put the blame on him, and
I mean, which is unfortunate.
It's a lot of fucking pressure. It's a lot of pressure. All right, Tim, where can everyone find you, my friend?
You can find my stuff at youtube.com/crazylittle-monster. All of the creepy cuts are up there, as well as some of the longer stuff like Ding Dong, and I have the longest film up there is called Abby, which is maybe the best example of what I've done so far.
I love Abby, by the way. I watched that. That was good.
Thank you. It is one of my favorites. I think, you know, in terms of complexity of story and just like what I want to do as a filmmaker in terms of blending genres, because it's sci-fi horror, it really does speak to where I want to be making movies. You know, it's got a little bit of everything there. It's got a lot of visual flash to it, which I like, and it's got I think, a really fun story that people get into.
And it's shot beautiful too. But I'm a praise your movie. It's shot beautiful because I was watching it. I was like, wow, this has a higher budget look to it.
Yeah, that's credit to Jameson Acker, the DP, as well as our production designer. It was Colin Bach on that, and everybody else that was on that cast and crew. They really brought the A game to it. We made a lot of effort to make it look as good as we could, and we pulled some strings. I sometimes feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I work in the union world, and so I can kind of beg and borrow some bigger and better stuff than some people have access to. But the fact is, it does help. The gear helps, right? It's not the be all and end all. You can make a great looking movie with an iPhone. You can make a really terrible looking movie with an IMAX camera. You have to know how to use what you have, but in the hands of somebody like Jameson, my DP, who knows how to use a camera, it really can elevate the game. And yeah, I begged a lot of help on that one, and I think it came out well. There's a Steadicam shot in there that I'm really, really proud of. That I really enjoy that scene a lot.
Yeah.
So
listen, everybody, go down to the description. The link to the Crazy Little Monster Productions YouTube channel is down there. Please hit that subscribe button for them.
Please.
Like and check out some of their work too. Listen, they have some great stuff up there and some disturbing shit as well, which is always fun.
Yeah,
especially in the horror realm.
Hopefully not too disturbing, but
not too disturbing. But it's too that that you want.
I love reading the comments. I try and respond to all of them. So if anybody has any good reactions to it, let me know how it hit you, please.
Definitely.
Cool.
Tim, this has been a blast having you on, man. This was a fun conversation.
You too. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
Most definitely. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Tim Troy. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me, Travis.